My name is Merkel. I'm a citizen of the state of Texas. I'm the president of the Convention of States Action. My organization is the organization that's promoting this Article 5 convention all across the country. We have activists in all 50 states, approximately 3.75 million people involved. We actually have activists in every single state legislative district in the nation. I've had the honor and privilege of traveling this country for the last 5 years. Just in the last couple of years, I've been in 42 states. I have a pretty good feel for the American people at this point. I've been in big states and small states, metropolitan areas, and farm communities. And there's a commonality running through America today. Senator Stubblefield talked a little bit about this. If you talk to folks on the street, they're pretty much sick and tired of the federal government. That's not partisan. It's not ideological. It's intrinsic to our identity as Americans. See, we're folks who believe that we were given free will by God and that we are to be self-governing citizens. That idea of self-governance runs deep in the American psyche. It goes all the way back way before the American Revolution. On this continent, we engaged in an amazing experiment in liberty. From the time we arrived at Jamestown and executed the Mayflower Compact until the American Revolution, had approximately 158 years of self-governance, something never before seen in all of world history. People on a continent not united by a particular tribe or particular ethnicity, but united by an idea about freedom and self-governance. The American Revolution was fought about this idea of freedom and self-governance. And then we came to the convention in 1787, what I think is one of the most important days in American history, actually, not celebrated. September 15, 1787, Colonel George Mason from Virginia stood and addressed the convention. It's 2 days before the end of the convention. Imagine, if you will, they've been in there all summer. You know the story, locked in Independence Hall. The windows are boarded up. It's stuffy and sweaty. And 2 days before the end of the convention, Mason said more than anybody else at the convention stands and says they've made a terrible mistake with the document. They created a document that gave the power to the federal government, to Congress itself, to propose amendments should they deem them necessary. They hadn't given the same power to the people, acting through the states. He asked the men assembled a question which I think resonates across the ages. He asked them, are we so naive that we believe that a federal government that becomes a tyranny will propose amendments to restrain its own tyranny? And we don't have any audio or video from that time, but if we did, I bet they laughed. Because in all of human history, we have no record of tyrannies reforming themselves, proposing to restrain their own tyranny. Madison's notes, in fact, actually pretty much tell us that they laughed, because his notes at that point say something very unusual for that convention. Men who debated everything, every comma, every period, every small point. His notes reflect in that moment, nin com. In Latin, that means no comment, no debate, no argument. Not one person in that hall stood and said, Colonel Mason, that's a ridiculous idea, giving this power to the states. In fact, they all agreed, and the record shows us that they agreed so vehemently, so totality, that there was literally no objection, and it was unanimously adopted to give the states the power to call an Article 5 convention. I think one of the most important things that's overlooked in our system of governance is that power was given to you who sit on this committee. The founders, in their wisdom, had faith in you looking forward over 200 years. Of course, they didn't know you personally, but they did know you. The reason they knew you is because they were you. Most of the people who were sitting in that room had sat on town councils, county boards, that sat in colonial governments and state governments. They understood that governance close to the people is the best governance. They understood not that you would be angels or smarter or better people. What they understood is that you were closer to the people. You were of the people. You were responsible to your constituents. You were accountable to your constituents. And so they vested in you a unique power not given to anybody else in the federal government. You have the most power of anybody in our federal system of governance. For only you were given the power to call a convention, to propose amendments, and to ratify those amendments. It's an extraordinary power and an extraordinary responsibility. And I would argue that you, of all people, have a moral responsibility today to exercise that power. Again, the vast majority of the American people believe the federal government is out of control. It's not a partisan issue. They want power back at home. Here in Arkansas, people want you to make the decisions that affect people in Arkansas, not people in Washington, D.C. That's true for people in New York, in Illinois, Jersey, Iowa, California, Texas, everywhere across the country. I'll close with this. Having traveled among the grassroots all across the country, I know that they support you in this endeavor. The polling shows us across the country.
I did, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.